Good morning, guys. I'm just getting set up. Bear with me. Welcome, everybody, to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all things cryptocurrency from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. And of course, there's a lot going on this week in the biggest pumper, Ethereum Classic, that may be relevant to miners. We're going to be talking about that today. We're also going to be talking about someone borrowing 5 Bored Apes to claim $1.1 million worth of the Apecoin tokens. Pretty incredible stuff there. Leveraging flash loans, and pretty interesting. We're also going to be talking about Crypto.com, NAB's FIFA World Cup as a sponsorship. That's going to be under our adoption. Ethereum Classic being up 75%. Of course, we already mentioned that. Mining Bitcoin with lasers, and a new release from BZ Miner right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is myself. To support the channel, click the join button below the video and you will get access to our privately hosted Rocket Chat. Selecting the $1.99 option will get you access, and after that you need to head over to the membership tab, scroll down, and expand out your membership perks. Find the section for connecting on social media, and in that section there will be a secret registration URL to join Rocket Chat, where you can sign up to enjoy talking with other cryptocurrency enthusiasts and miners without spammers, scammers, or bots. Welcome back. In the first topic of today, we have a new miner from BZ Miner version 8.1.1. We talked about it last week and we kind of knew this was coming, so let's hop into the notes. In this release, we have accurate LHR detection, apparently, whatever that means. So it's time to test a new miner with light hash rate and see if it's any better than what we've been working with already with the likes of LOL Miner and so on. They are showing CUDA, NVIDIA driver, and AMD version. Notify of unsupported NVIDIA drivers. Distinguish between hung GPU, overclock, and CUDA/AMD errors. Fixed intensity and other configs, priority order. Only connect to failsafe pool on reconnect if current pool was not already connected. Here's some bug fixes. They fixed auto protocol detection bug, ETH proxy not connecting to some pools, and ETH stratum extra nonce. So there you go. And then the other releases, it just kind of goes over all of them. So if you're interested, you can go check it out. Links in the description below. And we'll move on from there. Now, if you guys weren't aware, I did a how to buy Apecoin video. Now, a lot of people were kind of like, oh, it's going to crash and you're just like, it's a scam coin and blah, blah, blah. Look, there's some things that on this channel we're going to try to address and talk about as objectively as possible. And if it's a trending topic, part of my goal is to make sure that we discuss it and use those opportunities on like people trying to figure out where to buy it or how to buy it to also discuss other topics surrounding fundamentals. And as discussed in that video, Apecoin does not adhere to a lot of the fundamentals, especially with the distribution being an airdrop. And we're going to talk about some fun manipulation of that airdrop today. But also as well as donating to foundations and locking a certain amount of the supply up over a time period, meaning it's a very dangerous coin to essentially invest in because you don't know exactly when these unlocks will happen, or at least the dumps from these unlocks will happen. I'd be very careful and make sure you're aware of the timing of them and all that sort of thing. Other than that though, the coin has basically one of the largest NFT projects ever behind it, the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So people are going to ape into it. And I think it can be a moneymaker at the end of the day, if that's all you're really looking into. So just keep that in mind. But this story is pretty incredible. Someone borrowed 5 Bored Apes to claim 1.1 million US dollars worth of ape tokens. And this is pretty crazy. Excuse the construction in the background. It's getting a little crazy out here. But let's continue on. Quick take. An unknown user took advantage of the way Apecoin airdrop worked to glean $1.1 million worth of it for themselves. They used a flash loan to borrow 5 Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs while also claiming the airdrop and repaying the NFTs all in a single transaction. Now, if you guys aren't aware of essentially how this functions, as long as it's all within the same transaction or within the same block, you can basically take out a loan and do something with that loan via a smart contract and then make sure it's paid back within the same block. This way, there's no risk of the person giving you the loan to lose any money. And this is kind of how that functions. Yesterday, Yuga Labs, the creator of Bored Ape Yacht Club, airdropped Apecoin to anyone who owns one of their NFTs. The team allocated 150 million tokens, or 15% of the total Apecoin supply, to holders of Bored Ape Yacht Club and Mutant Ape Yacht Club collections. Amounting to a staggering value of more than 800 million US dollars, each BAYC holder got 10,094 tokens, valued anywhere between 80,000 to 200,000. But someone found a way to claim the airdrop using NFTs that they did not initially own. They took advantage of the specific way the airdrop works to carry it out. And it was a very effective move that netted them $1.1 million worth of Apecoin. The trick was that Apecoin airdrop was not handed out based on a snapshot of who owned which Bored Ape at the specific time in the past. Instead, it was claimable by anyone who owns a Bored Ape at the point of claiming the airdrop. So if you gave someone your Bored Ape and you hadn't already claimed the tokens, they would be able to claim your tokens. This meant all the person had to do was get a hold of some Bored Apes that hadn't had their tokens claimed. And they would only need to be in possession of these apes for a brief moment to claim the airdrop. In fact, they could be handed back straight away. So what happened? For this maneuver, the person started by finding a vault that contained 5 Bored Ape NFTs, which hadn't been used to claim the airdrop. A vault is a way to tokenize an NFT or a set of NFTs. What happens is you take a group of NFTs, put them in a vault, and you create a token. This token can then be staked to earn token rewards, or it can be sold representing part of the value of the collection of NFTs. Anyone who owns enough of the tokens can redeem them for the underlying NFTs. This vault was created on protocol called NFTX. It contained 5 Bored Apes, 7594, 8214, 9915, 8167, and 4755, worth about 500 ETH, 1.4 million US dollars, based on the current floor price. Since the NFTs were locked up in a vault and not controlled by any one party, nobody had used them to claim the airdrop. The person wanted to unlock the NFTs to use them to claim the airdrop, but they didn't want to buy them outright, something that would be expensive to do. So they used a flash loan, a tool commonly used for large DeFi hacks, to carry out this plan. Flash loans are a way to borrow large amounts of crypto at low cost on the basis that the crypto is repaid in the same transaction in the same block, meaning that the funds are never at risk of not being repaid. In this case, they bought a Bored Ape on NFT marketplace OpenSea for under $300,000 and used it as collateral to take out the flash loan. The flash loan was then used to purchase a large amount of the Vault's token, letting them redeem the 5 NFTs. The NFTs were used to claim the airdrop, all in this one complex transaction, before all of them were then returned. The tokens sold back and the loan repaid. In this process, they managed to claim an airdrop of 60,564 Apecoin. They then sold these tokens on the decentralized exchange Uniswap for 399 ETH, which is the equivalent of 1.1 million US dollars. After that, they sold back the original Bored Ape NFT that was used as collateral to the same NFTX vault. Attacker arbitrage. And this is basically, they're wondering, this is going to be like a question of like, is this a hack, an attack, or is this just trading arbitrage? There's a lot of people, like we've talked about arbitrage a lot for MEV in the past and kind of the ordering of transactions that mining pools do, some off-chain even with traders to essentially, allow for this type of thing. Flash loans have been a problem for quite some time. Some people, are okay with flash loans. Some people are not. You guys can determine that in the comments in the live chat and let me know what you think. Discuss it among yourselves while we go through the news topics for today. But even though many social media commentators hailed the incident as an innovative arbitrage trade, security firm Blocksec team disagreed. It has labeled this as an attack that exploited an issue in the airdrop claiming mechanism. Blocksec team told The Block that based on its analysis, the user likely took advantage of a vulnerability in yesterday's airdrop event. Quote, "We think it's an attack as the airdrop mechanism has a vulnerability. The airdrop claim depended on the spot state, whether a user held the NFT at the time of claim, and the attacker exploited this vulnerability to profit," end quote, Blocksec team said. See, this is where I'm kind of a little on the fence, because it doesn't seem like it's a vulnerability to say, hey, on the spot state, if you control this, we do the airdrop. To me, that sounds like how it was intended and how the public was expecting to basically garner their tokens through the airdrop, right? But one way this could have been avoided is if the airdrop had taken into account how long a person owned the NFT before the reward could be claimed. And that's true. But then what? Are you encouraging people to actually trade then? It's because if you think about this from a developer standpoint or from just the creator standpoint, right? Your goal is to drive up the activity within your project. So one of the things you would want to be happening is, due to the airdrop, people purchasing more Bored Apes so that they can claim more tokens. Like, that's kind of your goal. So having some system that says, well, we're going to base it on how long you've held it. If that time frame is super long, then you're not going to encourage that activity on your project. And so I don't think that I agree that that's one way you could prevent it, but I don't think that is the result of which that the developers would actually prefer over just a whole bunch of trading of Bored Apes going on to increase the project's visibility. Since Yuga Labs did not take a snapshot, a method that's common for most airdrops, it means that anyone could buy the NFT in real time to claim it. This is likely the primary reason why the BAYC sales spiked so soon after the airdrop announcement. Like I said, that's the point. That's the thing. That's what they want. They want the sales spike. So, like, it seems silly to say that it's a vulnerability when literally, to me, it seems like a business strategy to spike the activity on your project. That's what it sounds like to me. Either way, right? Like, you could call it an attack, you could call it arbitrage. whatever it was pretty brilliant by this individual to pull this off. And basically just within one single block of Ethereum earn 1.1 million US dollars. Pretty incredible stuff. Let's talk about Crypto.com nabs FIFA World Cup sponsorship for undisclosed sum. This is basically Crypto.com is the sponsor of the channel. They're sponsoring anybody and everybody at this time. You can determine how high they're setting their standards, but you can check out the affiliate link down in the description. That being said, they are changing their funding bonus structure. So I guess a new ad's coming to the channel. I'll be reviewing that today. They just sent it over. I'm not too clear on the details yet. We'll have those details out for you later this week. But here we go. It's coming from CoinDesk. Crypto exchange Crypto.com has made another splash in the world of sports partnerships, announcing Tuesday it will be an official sponsor of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. The partnership will put the exchange's branding all around the tournament's Qatar venue, as well as within the stadium's broadcast view. The total compensation for the deal was undisclosed. Quote, no sport brings the world together like football. I think they mean soccer. It's soccer, right? All right. And no sporting event brings the world together the way FIFA World Cup does. End quote. Crypto.com CMO Stephen Kalifowitz told CoinDesk in a statement. Quote, only a few brands have the privilege to participate as official sponsors, and we jumped on the opportunity to be the first brand to represent the crypto industry in this historic month-long event, end quote. Crypto.com made headlines in November when it acquired the naming rights to the iconic Staples Center in Los Angeles, renaming it to the Crypto.com Arena. The deal was estimated to cost around 700 million US dollars, which makes it the largest naming rights deal in sports history. The exchange said in a Tuesday press release that it serves more than 10 million customers and has over 4,000 employees across offices in the Americas, Europe, and Asia. So, huge adoption there, obviously, going on within cryptocurrency. Crypto.com's been on the face of everything, and it's pretty incredible that they haven't fully surpassed Coinbase at this time, but I feel like everybody knew coming in for the second, I guess, huge bull run is what we'll go with, as compared to like the 2016 to 2018 run. That was all Coinbase pretty much. Now we got Crypto.com. So it's pretty cool. Pretty fun stuff. Let's talk about Ethereum Classic, up 75% in 8 days. But will ETH miners migrate after the ETC fifth inning? Fifth inning? Now, a couple other YouTubers have already covered the fifth inning, which is happening in June. But right now, nothing's changed to the block reward. You can still get the same block reward. And at the current increase in price of 75% in the past week, you are seeing basically almost identical profitability between Ethereum Classic and Ethereum, especially dependent on the pool you're choosing, which is something to take into account here. Let's get into the details as according to Cointelegraph, though. Will miners migrate? Ethereum Classic price appears to be getting a boost from its scheduled fifth inning next month. Ethereum Classic, ETC, price climbed on March 22nd, ignoring a deadly death cross on a weekly chart as traders raised their bets on its potential to become a haven for miners fleeing the rival Ethereum blockchain. Ethereum Classic's price jumped over 15.5% to reach $44 a token, and I believe it's even higher than that now, like 46 or something, maybe 48, for the first time since December 9th, 2021. The coin's intraday gains. Oh man. All right. We got to Google that one. I don't even know what this means. So that's what happens when it's from the perspective of a miner and not a trader. I want the definition, bro. Here we go. on Robinhood. Should we trust them? It means within the day. Okay. So basically, within the day came as part of a broader rebound move that saw its price rallying more than 75% 8 days after bottoming out near $25 US. Most of Ethereum Classic's course to this upside saw it tracking general crypto market trends. For instance, the Ethereum Classic token showed an extremely high correlation with Bitcoin, the leading cryptocurrency by market cap, reaching 0.98 on multiple occasions. A correlation coefficient reading of 1 between two assets showed that they move completely in lockstep. This is Ethereum Classic in USD versus BTC or Bitcoin USD correlation coefficient. And if you are listening on Spotify, it is what's showing on the screen right now. There is the video portion available though too. But Ethereum Classic 75% plus gain in the last 8 days largely outperformed Bitcoin's 15.5% returns in the same period. That may have to do with the speculations about Ethereum Classic's ability to attract miners from its rival Ethereum, a viable alternative to Ethereum miners. Ethereum Classic, however, failed to attract as many users, leaving the network in the hands of a few miners. This resulted in a double spend attack worth $1 million US on Coinbase in January of 2019. We discussed this. Other instances of 51% attacks on the network have also been happening. Now, what we do have to talk about there is the access to security that is the problem with Ethereum Classic during these, or in regard to these hacks, because what we have is a huge amount of hash rate on the same algorithm, or pretty much this similar, very similar algorithm with some minor adjustments to allow 4 GB cards and that sort of thing, but very similar to Ethereum. And because Ethereum is so large, if somebody just wants to, like a single farm kind of wants to mess with, Ethereum Classic, they can just move some hash rate over temporarily, perform one of these attacks and move back, and then created that double spend attack, for example. A lot of people assume that there are people that are huge onto Ethereum, that are mining, that were wanting to intentionally mess with Ethereum Classic. That's kind of one of those tinfoil hat things. Suffice to say, though, when Ethereum goes through the merge, what you're going to see is a huge shift of security onto Ethereum Classic initially, meaning basically more people will be mining it, so the security will be buffed up, and basically this won't even be possible anymore if that all goes according to plan. Now, when that happens, we don't really know. The timing here is also going to be very interesting too, which we'll talk about as we get further into this. But in December of 2020, Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson announced that his firm, IOHK, initiated the Mantis project to upgrade Ethereum Classic and support its community. Last year, the cooperative noted that Ethereum's move to proof of stake and sharding may disrupt many in the community who prefer proof of work and a strong base layer approach to blockchain security, adding, "This is where Ethereum Classic becomes a viable alternative for Ethereum projects to migrate to." As ETC rallies in March, the hash rate has not yet risen to a new all-time highs, suggesting that miners aren't jumping over just yet. Nevertheless, social media has started to take up the miner exodus mantra, as shown in the tweets below. Wise Crypto, Ethereum Classic is trading higher by 11.73% in the last 24 hours. ETC is rising because it's tech. Indicators turned bullish on 3/18. Also, ETH will go proof of stake in a few months. Hence, Ethereum Classic stands to benefit from increased hash rate security as miners look for alternatives. Ethereum Classic is becoming extremely profitable to mine. The miners recognize this, and they are porting over to Ethereum Classic en masse. No miners are not switching over yet, so calm down, but when they do, the real fireworks start on Ethereum Classic. And we'll be taking a look at all this too today, but the ETC block reward reduction is also coming. So Ethereum Classic's price also surged in the run-up to the third block reward reduction, or fifthening, expected to arrive on April 15th, 2022 at block 15 million. In detail, the Ethereum Classic's block reward get cut periodically by 20% every 5 million blocks, roughly every 2.5 years. Following the improvement proposal, ECP 1017 launched in 2017. The last of such events occurred on March 16, 2022, which followed up with Ethereum Classic rising by more than 350% to date. Whew. Technically, Ethereum Classic appears oversold due to its daily relative strength index rising above 70, a sell signal. The Ethereum Classic USD pair now tests $44 at its interim resistance, a level with a history of acting as a strong support between July 2021 and December of 2021. As a result, Ethereum Classic may correct towards its 200-day exponential move average near the $37 mark next. Conversely, a decisive move above 44 could have it eye $50. So to give you guys an idea, I believe we already had that happen. Let's just go confirm. Yeah, we're at 47. So the assumption would be that we're already going to go to 50 now at this point on Ethereum Classic. At least that's what the traders think. But what do we think, right? So obviously, like if we look at the Ethereum Classic price and we go ahead and hit like the last week, we're up 73% on Ethereum Classic price. If you guys are curious about the fifth inning, what it means is you have a 20% block reward reduction that should be happening in June, which curiously enough will line up with the potential move to proof of stake from Ethereum as well, of course, provided it doesn't get delayed. Now, proponents within the industry that I think are in the know, like Bits Be Trippin', are saying more of a December timeline for the merge on Ethereum. But either way, it would be kind of funny to see the timing of the reduction in reward from Ethereum Classic coincide with the merge. Either way, it really doesn't matter as far as if we're talking about both adoption and kind of the sign of things to come here for Ethereum Classic. No other coin is making these kind of moves right now. No other token. The only one that was outperforming Ethereum Classic here for a while, to my understanding, was Apecoin. So if we go to CoinMarketCap, we can head on over there and take a look though today and make sure that we're still on that that same idea. Hold on. It looks like for the past 24 hours, Cardano and Bitcoin Gold are up ahead of it. And then, of course, there's the Apecoin, like we just talked about. And then for the 7-day, it's only second to Apecoin, which isn't even a coin, that's a token. And it's up over everything else in the market, and by quite a bit, like 20%. And this is an inflated increase over the 7-day because you have to take into account that huge dump that really messed with Apecoin. So this is a launch time thing. This kind of gain you wouldn't get unless you're one of the airdrop recipients, like we talked about before. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. We're talking about an 80% increase in the past 7 days on Ethereum Classic. And a lot of it does have to do a little bit with the block reward reduction, because I'm not going to keep trying to say the fifth inning. And of course, the potential for miners to start moving over. So you say, hey, Blind Run, we said, like, of course, like there's not that much going on. What, like there's not the DeFi there yet. There's not the NFTs there yet. They need more development on the project. Wrong. They are working on it. Tons of different applications are popping up. Tons of different dApps. Tons of different things that you can do now. There is DeFi on the platform. We're going to be covering it for you guys. There's already multiple NFT projects, including Classic Apes, which is basically the Bored Ape Yacht Club hopping into Ethereum Classic. That's huge. We have the Classic Punks as well popping up. So NFTs are starting to pop up all over Ethereum Classic. Bridges are happening. You can import it directly into your MetaMask as far as a network, so it works just the same as everything else. which, to be honest, is probably the biggest advantage it has over competitors, even such as Ergo, because we've talked about Ergo and its ability to already have DeFi and that sort of thing, but you got to get that ROI wallet, right? Well, what if you're just somebody that wants to participate within crypto and you're used to MetaMask and you want to keep utilizing that? Well, Ethereum Classic's right there and ready to go. The ease of transfer from Ethereum to Ethereum Classic is way beyond any other project that's currently available, unless we're talking about maybe proof of stake options. I'm talking specifically proof of work options from the miner's perspective here. So there's tons of opportunity within Ethereum Classic right now, especially as a developer too. What do we not have on Ethereum Classic would be like an OpenSea, right? Something like an NFT marketplace. While you can go purchase all these NFTs, most of them are directly through the individual websites. So keep that in mind. There's opportunity out there right now. You can even go start minting classic apes, which I was talking about yesterday. The mint is over for the apes themselves, but you do have the comics that are mintable right now for 1 ETH, I believe. I'll have to find it later, but we'll talk about it in a different one. So lots of stuff going on with Ethereum Classic. And I think as a miner, this is the best news that could be happening right now, right? Because the price discovery needs to start taking place so that miners can prepare. The industry can compare for potential moves to Ethereum Classic, and everybody can be on board. Things that need to get fixed is like Crypto.com's 40,000 confirmation to actually be able to deposit to them. Coinbase is faster though. There's some things like that need to get put into place. Remember, other things that separate Ethereum Classic from Ethereum is instead of doing supply burns, they just have a supply cap. So it's a lot more fundamental from that perspective. And then yet, if you're looking at doing anything on Ethereum Classic, it pretty much mimics what Ethereum does. So it's just a more fundamentally sound Ethereum, provided the security is provided to the network, which will be our job as miners, especially post-merge. I'll look forward to checking out questions and answers surrounding this topic at the end of the show. So, why some Bitcoin devs say lasers can cut mining's energy cost for mining week on CoinDesk. Like I said, we're going to be covering at least one article from Mining Week on CoinDesk a day this week. Optical proof of work could improve geographic distribution of hash rate and quell fears of climate-related pushback, proponents argue. Bitcoin's energy use has long been a hot button issue. Now, some developers say the solution could lie in a more energy efficient form of computer processing that perhaps appropriately uses lasers. When we consider Bitcoin energy use, really the discussion should focus on emissions. That's what they say. I don't think it should focus on emissions. I think it should focus on energy waste, but that's because I'm in Texas and I'm really infatuated with flare gas and not wasting, just burning 20% of it off into the atmosphere as opposed to utilizing it. I don't know. I think there's an argument there. That's just how I feel about it, but I'd rather start reducing energy waste at first because that's the most simple thing to do, and then we can go from there, boys. But, you know, it's not how a lot of people think. Industry participants have worked towards improving transparency in that category the past couple of years. If we look even further back, Hal Finney, who received the first Bitcoin transaction ever from the system's creator Satoshi Nakamoto, said he was thinking about how to reduce CO2 emissions from a widespread Bitcoin implementation in 2009. Most arguments about remediating Bitcoin's emission problems center around outright banning it, cleaning up its energy mix, or switching from proof of work to a consensus mechanism that doesn't require a heavy use of electricity to work, typically proof of stake, a transition Ethereum has been planning to carry out since 2015. All right. That won't happen because miners control the governance. Just FYI for anybody that's worried about that statement. I'm just going to say that and then we're going to move on. Rarely discussed is the possibility of change to a different type of proof of work. Bitcoin Optical, a working group of developers that produce free education materials, pointed out in his January 5th, 2022 newsletter that Bitcoin Improvement Proposal 52 was officially brought into the discussion for a proposed hard fork or major change to Bitcoin. BIP 52 aspires to shift expenses from electricity costs to operating expenses to hardware costs or capital expenditures. This shift would be achieved through what is known as Optical Proof of Work, or OPOW, a proposal created by Michael Dabrowski, Bogdan Penkovsky, both contributors to nonprofit Proof of Work X and an assistant professor at New York University's Corin Institute of Mathematical Sciences. In short, OPOW would change the proof of work algorithm used by Bitcoin now to one dubbed heavy hash that is mostly computed using a new class of photonic processors. It's not just photonic processors. Are they just stealing that name? There's a couple coins that are heavy hash right now, by the way, boys. Heavy hash is the algorithm that, or is the name of the algorithm that Caspa uses. The motivation behind this proof of work is to decouple Bitcoin mining from energy and make it feasible outside of regions with low electricity costs. This shift, proponents argue, would improve geographic distribution of computing power or hash rate, decrease barriers to entry for new miners, and quell any fears of climate-related pushback as Bitcoin proliferates and grows in popularity, since the switch would reduce Bitcoin's energy and demand. It is worth mentioning before we go further that optical proof of work is still not fully developed and has not been used in practice in a Bitcoin testnet or an experimental environment for software changes. There's a live implementation of optical proof of work called OBTC. There's also another one called, so this is what it gets a little confusing. So technically there's a modified version of it as well running on Caspa, which is part of the big deal here, just to give you guys an idea. So, yeah, okay. Which is based on the optical proof of work modified Bitcoin code base published by Proof of Work X in March of 2021. It is not actively marketed or managed by Optical Proof of Work's creators, but there is a community of supporters who mine and trade OBTC. Additionally, Proof of Work X is collaborating with optical computing companies, including Lightelligence, to explore commercialization of an optical proof of work miner and is testing heavy hash on a demo platform. Why optical proof of work mining might work. There are many benefits of Bitcoin's energy-intensive construction, namely robustness and anti-fragility, for example. That said, just because proof of work has worked so well throughout Bitcoin's history does not mean that other ideas should be dismissed on sight. Bitcoin is a technology and technology changes. Yeah, but you can change the hardware and not change the software, which I think is something that a lot of people miss when we start discussing proof of work and its energy consumption, which is just get the hardware more efficient, which it's already in the natural progression of doing because people are incentivized to make the hardware more efficient, because the more efficient you make it, the more money you make. So it's kind of like weird that people are completely ignoring the incentives that are already built into Bitcoin surrounding power consumption and energy usage, which is essentially just everybody is incentivized to reduce their power consumption, make it more renewable, and be able to mine it better and faster and more efficiently than the guy that's next door, right? That's the entire point of it. So it's already going to move in that direction. I don't think you need to change the software necessarily. That being said, as far as optical proof of work goes, and as far as heavy hash goes, which is kind of weird that they're proposing it for this, I do think that Caspa is a very interesting project as well as OBTC. First and foremost, lasers have shown promise in making computation more efficient. Photons enable a higher bandwidth than electrons when used in computers, which is why fiber internet powered by flashing lights through glass cables is faster than regular internet. While there is some disagreement about feasibility of laser-based computers replacing semiconductor-based ones outright, optical computation could theoretically improve performance. Not to mention, it fits the laser eyes meme popular among Bitcoiners. Ha ha ha. From a business perspective, optical proof of work makes a lot of sense. Instead of having capital expenditure and operating expenses taking an equal share in running Bitcoin mine, the coin shifts towards upfront investment. As a result, optical proof of work Bitcoin hardware would be markedly more expensive than current machines. That investment could be more easily financed as lenders would have expensive equipment to collateralize against, and the cost of operations would be predictable because miners would be less sensitive to changes in energy availability and pricing. As such, cash flow pressures would be further eased as pricier equipment allows companies to run additional depreciation expenses through their financial statements, an accounting trick in practice that nonetheless has real financial consequences. See, part of the problem here, though, is like it's going in the wrong direction. If we really want to get into it, if we want to incentivize the entire population to reduce energy consumption, be more conscious of it, and all that sort of thing, you would say that you would want to actually get the hardware to be cheaper. You would want it to be mineable on consumer grade products, and you would want to educate the population on basically responsible use and mining and all that sort of stuff, right? As opposed to like, okay, now it's just going to be one big expensive piece of equipment that some large massive company owns, and then you just go the wrong direction. I think like a lot of people already see this with ASICs as being the problem too. I do want to say before we go further too as well, just to like ease everybody's mind, that this is 99.9% probably improbable or impossible due to the fact that, once again, the governance surrounding Bitcoin comes from the miners. And because of that, I just don't see miners voting themselves out of a job, which is essentially what they would be doing to pass an EIP like this. Additionally, if technology worked, it would make energy a less important piece of Bitcoin's composition. Notwithstanding the genuine benefits of an energy-intensive blockchain, a shift away from energy consumption would unquestionably ease political pressures, especially in the United States and the European Union, where a regulator has called for a ban on proof-of-work crypto mining, and the parliament seriously considered such a draconian measures though ultimately rejected them. In this scenario, politicians and regulators might conceivably warm to Bitcoin if one of their major points of contention were to fall away. Proponents of optical proof of work also argue the shift away from energy dependency would improve the geographic distribution of Bitcoin mining, since it would no longer be concentrated in places with cheap, abundant energy. Instead, it would be mined wherever capital is available to be put to work to mine Bitcoin, which is the same that we don't want that. That's the same problem that proof of stake has, really, at the end of the day, right? This would make Bitcoin less susceptible to aggressive swings in hash rate if, say, a coal mine explodes in China or a Kazakh government shuts down the internet. That being said, of course, that hasn't really impacted Bitcoin hash rate as much as they would like you to think, because it's only been about total of what, 2% drop in difficulty on the network, and maybe like the same amount of hash rate, somewhere around there, with Kazakh all the way shutting down. Another argument of optical proof of work proponents make it that the main source of Bitcoin's network security comes from game theory as opposed to its energy use. The idea here is that Bitcoin miners are compelled to be good actors, otherwise their mining equipment in Bitcoin would become worthless if such a successful attack on the network were carried out. Right now, it's particularly impossible to rent enough machines to control 51% of Bitcoin hash rate in order to attack the network. So an attacker would have to be a large owner of mining assets. With that in mind, shifting even more of the cost of mining to capital expenditure would increase the overall security of the system. I would disagree. Lastly, a hard fork or backward incompatible code change is not necessarily required for the Bitcoin network to test and eventually implement optical proof of work. It's theoretically possible to add optical proof of work to Bitcoin as a soft fork, one that would allow users to run the old version without causing a split in the network. This is a potentially important point as hard fork proposals have historically been highly contentious among Bitcoiners. The most famous example is the Bitcoin Cash hard fork that stemmed from the virulent debate over block size and block capacity enhancement of segregated witness in 2017. In a soft fork test phase, miners could ensure that most mining revenue would be earned using the current mining algorithm and a small percentage using optical proof of work. This could create sufficient incentive for optical proof of work to be stress tested and to incentivize the manufacture of dedicated optical proof of work miners. If this test phase were successful, the breakdown could be adjusted over time such that optical proof of work accounts for up to 100% of Bitcoin's mining activity. If unsuccessful, it could be phased out. All right, so it says why it might not work. There are several arguments for why it would not work. In the early days of Bitcoin mining, we saw China dominate, owning to its glut of cheap energy. That cheap, abundant energy was a result of China looking to aggressively expand its economy and become energy independent. In doing so, China overbuilt its power generation capacity. Bitcoin mining ended up coalescing with within China because China fulfilled Bitcoin's miners' needs for cheap input costs to keep operating expenses down. Simply shifting the cost curve to upfront costs might lead the exact opposite centralization problem. Instead of most Bitcoin mining ending up near cheap, abundant energy sources that popped up in developing labor-abundant countries like China, they might coalesce in developed capital-abundant countries like the United States. But that's already happening without that. Like, we already see that. Everything's moving over here because China banned it, right? So, imagine if they were more expensive, requiring immense amounts of startup capital would have a meaningful impact on the feasibility of solo mining, which would itself be a blow to decentralization. Next, optical proof of work may not work in practice. It's still a theory, and although it has been put through the ringer, that is the developer brain trust, no one knows how optical proof of work will behave and work when real people start using it and their money is at stake. Just like the lack of commercially successful implementations of proof of stake, optical proof of work is untested, particularly in Bitcoin. There's no guarantee that it will be secure enough for Bitcoin, and some of the comments on the BIP GitHub repository say as much. Developer Jeremy Rubin pointed out a potential design flaw that could give some miners an unfair advantage over the rest if it was exploited. As mentioned above, Proof of Work X has launched on OBTC, a Bitcoin lookalike that implements optical proof of work. But even if OBTC is successful within its own ecosystem, that doesn't necessarily mean it would be successful in the context of Bitcoin itself. Yeah, and I think you just need to spin up different blockchains, right? Like, go ahead and spin up Caspo, test it out, see how it functions there as far as the heavy hash goes, spin up the OBTC if you want, see how it functions there. It has to be proven and put through the fire at those levels before you could ever even consider moving it to basically the big daddy, right? Lastly, and mostly, optical proof of work would fundamentally change the way Bitcoin interacts with the rest of the world. Energy is an important part of Bitcoin now, and as Bitcoin grows, it will become a more important part of the energy system. On top of that, while capital is put to work in proof of stake systems, more of it would be invested up front in an optical proof of work system that capital could be put to work elsewhere. And that capital is far more easily moved than energy. Given the technological cap on our ability to transport energy, a bank wire transfer may seem slow, but you have tried building an oil pipeline. Potentially more wasteful to tie up capital in a proof of stake or similar system. Capital can be used almost anywhere on countless ideas for projects. The energy used by a proof of work system, on the other hand, can't be used as freely as capital. Removing the energy-intensive component from Bitcoin could fundamentally change what it has become and what it may become. And I think it would change it for the worse, personally. What's next for Bitcoin and optical proof of work? Optical proof of work remains one of more than 150 Bitcoin improvement proposals being discussed by developers. to receive a BIP number and be added to the repository, a proposal simply must follow the correct format and be technically possible to do so. It doesn't need broad support or even be generally a good idea. Although optical proof of work may have been implemented as a hard fork, that's not to say that the update would be dead on arrival. We don't know what improvements can be made to the proposal, and we don't know where Bitcoin will be tomorrow. So keep your laser eyes on on this fascinating, if debatable, idea. And I think what will happen is we'll just see it put into different currencies and kind of test it out there. Here's some things that I think a lot of people once again completely ignore the fact that the governance is run by the miners, have to get voted in by the miners. With all the capital invested within Bitcoin mining surrounding ASICs, something drastic would have to happen to the Bitcoin network for everybody to just go ahead and vote for a new consensus mechanism. And I don't see it happening anytime soon. So that's kind of where I sit as far as that goes. Now let's talk about a little bit of upfront capital investment, which to me sounds like also less equipment to work with and so on. It's more similar to proof of stake than proof of work if we're talking about the way the money is invested and what that means for it. Because one of the arguments I saw in my comment section regarding proof of stake, proof of work was that proof of stake and proof of work are no different because Jeff Bezos, if he wanted to, could invest just as much in proof of work equipment and therefore just take over the network that way. And because he has more money, it's the same problem with proof of stake. The key difference here that you need to take into account when you hear these types of arguments, right, is that proof of work requires infrastructure. So because it requires infrastructure and because it requires power, it basically is a job generating venture. And whether that's the electrician or the electricity company or your network engineers or whatever, for Jeff Bezos to scale a massive infrastructure to invest in Bitcoin more than any of us, he would have to have employees. Whereas with proof of stake, all he has to have is a single VPS, a single server running in the cloud, and the most amount of money to invest into it. And it kind of sits off and does its own thing. The important part of society and the economy, a society's economy, right, that a lot of people seem to always forget about is that is directly related to how much energy that society can basically utilize. And the more efficient a society gets at utilizing that energy and the more of that energy they use, the more successful traditionally those societies will be. So Bitcoin can be a huge pump to any economy that decides to participate in it because of its power consumption, which could be a positive thing for a lot of the smaller countries. That's why I think you see that shift into it. Let's get into mining profitability for the day. And we have two miners up here. We did make that switch. We are earning about 0.07 ETH a day. It's just right on point, right? So we did 0.71 for our first full day there. That's going to be 228 US dollars. Not fantastic, but not the end of the world. We're definitely doing better than we expected. It's hot out today, and we're still sitting at 5.57 gigahash a second on the current. For the average hash rate, we're at 5.47 gigahash a second. So this two fan seems to have resolved pretty much all of my troubles, which is fantastic. Don't worry, this isn't all our income. We are also mining on Fluxpool, and we are at 400 solutions a second, pulling in somewhere around 6 to 7 coins a day, making another 10 US dollars on that. And then additionally, we are also doing Varus hash, but this is primarily because I am testing out Varus hash for Soapcoin, but we have basically 6 rigs over here on it, mining and making somewhere around 1 to 2 Varus coin a day, which is pretty much insignificant. But, you know, if you have some extra CPUs running around there, these are pretty much primarily, other than 2 of them, are just Ryzen CPUs, Zen 3, like 5000 series. You can see here 5800X, 5600X, 3600 XT. I believe this one's Threadripper, and then this one is a 7700, and this one's a 4700. Checking what to mine. RTX 3090. Let's go ahead and update the solutions a second. Make sure you're using Mini Z on NVIDIA GPUs. We have Ethereum in first place at $4.05 a day after power. And then boom, like we were saying, this Ethereum Classic, $3.59 a day after power. This is the closest Ethereum Classic has been to Ethereum in such a long time, and it usually never happens in a bull run like this. And that needs to be taken into account too. I say a bull run. I should say within this time of the typical super cycle where we would expect to be in March and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, as you see it, typically you wouldn't see this at this time of year ever either. So it's kind of weird to see it kind of pumping up and really taking, just completely decoupling itself from the gains of every other cryptocurrency here recently, gaining the most value within the past week of any other coin except for Apecoin, which we can toss to the side basically because that's a brand new project that basically has inflated numbers due to it being a brand new project and a heavily manipulated airdrop for its supply. That being said, you know, if you want to start moving over to Ethereum Classic, let me know how it goes. We already did some solo mining, and I think solo mining is going to be almost out of the case all the way, but I am building up a node for Ethereum Classic specifically to mine it solo without the interference of these little solo mining pools that like to suck your 1% out for no reason. So build your own nodes if you're going to solo mine. I'll be trying to cover that. It's really hard to cover everything I want to, though, to be honest with you guys. Flux is looking pretty good at $2.59 a day after power. Cero, $2.72 a day after power. Been sitting on the chart for quite some time now. Conflux at $2.44 a day after power. And Ergo at $2.56 a day after power. Ravencoin is over $2 a day for the first time in a long time at $2.20 a day after power. Mining profitability is starting to pretty much come back to where it was. We're starting to go back up, and we're seeing altcoins that are going to support GPU miners post Ethereum merge. It looks like price discovery is starting on these smaller coins, starting of course with Ethereum Classic, which is most predictable. The ones to be watching out for here soon, right? Is Ethereum Classic over? Maybe, maybe not, but that big 70% gain, maybe that's all the price discovery it needs right now. We have other stuff to take a look at. Flux is going to start discovering price, I'm pretty sure. Ravencoin is going to be start discovering price, and Ergo. Those three are what I'm going to keep my eyes on. That's not financial advice. That's what I'm keeping my eyes on for our potential move post-merge of Ethereum. So you got Ethereum Classic, once again, Flux, Ravencoin, Ergo. Those are on the list. Those are pretty much the ones on the list for me right now. We could talk about Conflux, but I'm worried about the China interaction between that. Not too big of a fan of its algorithm either, with the octopus being pretty difficult to mine on a lot of different stuff. Flux kind of has the same problem. It's very, very NVIDIA dependent. So the ones that are going to be able to easily take over the hash rate, farms like mine are going to be able to easily move over to with 5000 series GPUs and Polaris GPUs, is going to be basically Ethereum Classic and Ergo. Those are the two that are the easiest to move every GPU over to, right? So if you're like, I want to be able to move my whole farm, whether it's a 2080 Ti or an RX 580, that's going to be your easiest bet, those two coins. Just because of the algorithm, nothing else, not financial advice, purely from a technical standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint, from a cooling standpoint, from your overclock standpoint, from whatever you've already done on BIOS modding, the most compatible algorithms, right? Ergo and Ethereum Classic. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the hash rates. We have a bump up to sort of about 5 exahash a second increase on Bitcoin today. Let's go ahead and look at Ethereum. Ethereum has dropped below 1 petahash for the first time, I think this month. It's been quite a while since it's been under 1 petahash. It's 996.5 terahash a second. Take a look at Ethereum Classic, and I'm gonna assume a bump, and of course we do have that bump at 28.56. All right, I'm telling you, not financial advice, just the lessons I've learned. When you see these big pumps, and you're like, oh, I might move my whole farm over, you can get burned real quick. Be careful. Take it slow. You know? Slow ride. What is a free ride? Take it easy. I don't know why. Take it easy. There we go. All right, Flux. Let's go ahead and look at Flux. Flux has decreased, has actually dropped below 2 mega solutions a second. So that would be one I would eye, right? Let's take a look at Ergo. Ergo's been dropping as well at 13.71 terahash a second. I think we're going to start seeing discovery on these coins though too. That's what I was saying. Raven coin, what do we got going on here? 3.62 terahash a second, pretty much right at where it was at. And it actually has leveled out in difficulty here this week. Mining pool profits on Ethereum. Last 90 days, mining pool hub in first, crazy pool in second, flex pool in third. Last 60 days, mining pool hub in first, flex pool in second, crazy pool in third. Last 30 days, mining pool hub in first, ZET in second, flex pool in third. Last 21 days, ZET in first, mining pool hub in second, 2 miners in third. Last 14 days, mining pool hub in first, 2 miners in second, flex pool in third. Last 7 days, ZET in first, mining pool hub in second, nano pool in third. For the last 3 days, ZET in first, mining pool hub in second, flex pool in third. And for the last day, ZET in first, flex pool in second, and mining pool hub in third. What we're going to do now is, I did forget to pull this up, but let's go ahead and get to miner stat for the ASIC miners. Let's see if they're having good days. They are having good days as well, just like the GPU mining. Up a lot on Antminer L7. We're looking at a Verge pump. I might need to go find my Verge bag. Let's go ahead and take a look at Verge and see what this pump is doing here. Surprising to me, doesn't look like it's a huge pump. Something might be off with the API here. 3 months? I mean, like, no. I don't know exactly why it's showing Verge for the L7 making so much money. I really honestly don't know at this time. I'd have to go do some more research. But that's definitely one to keep an eye on. KD6 still sitting there at 117 US dollars a day, not seeing the same profitability that a majority of, I thought when I first opened this up, this was going to be the KD6. So I said, you know, ASIC miners looking like it's following along with GPU mining. But right now it looks like GPU mining is recovering faster than ASIC mining. To me, that's what I'm seeing here. KD5 at 79.24, the D7 at 48. Let's go ahead and scroll down here at purchasing ASICs to kind of hedge against some of the issues going on GPU mining. But if I'm looking at mining market recoveries, not financial advice, it does look like right now the GPU mining market is recovering faster than the ASIC mining market, at least in this corresponding kind of current pump in price we've seen. So keep that in mind because it's very interesting. All right. Is that going to mean we have less GPUs on the market again? We'll have to see. Let's get into questions and answers. Super chats never required, always appreciated. Make sure you basically put it in there if you want your question answered in priority, because I'll be able to read it easier. That's why. Next, of course, tag at @SonOfATech, which will highlight the message, or at least my name in orange, make it easier to pull out the question from chat. Otherwise, I'll probably miss your question. And even if it is in orange, I may miss it as well because it doesn't flash onto the screen like the super chat. So if like there's something you're really trying to get at me and I'm not catching it, it's a really busy day or something, that is an idea to get there. You can just do like as cheap as possible or whatever. I'm just telling you guys how it is to read these things. You got to keep that in mind. I also am getting comments, of course, like take care of the spam. I'm running a spam bot tool every day. I am creating more content than any other cryptocurrency YouTuber in existence right now. I do this all on my own. I'm running a mining farm, etc. I'm not going to get to every spam comment. It's not going to happen, okay? I'm not going to get to every single one of y'all's comments either. That doesn't mean that I don't appreciate you or I'm not trying. It just means that out of the 10,000 comments or so a day, which is the average, I'm not going to, I can get to a few, like 10, right? That's just the way it is. Gandalf Gray says, as Son of a Tech, I thought that Ethereum Classic implemented a proposal that requires an attack vector to have 3 times the current network hash rate, removing the 51% attack rule. I'd have to look at the details on that. Like I said, the biggest thing that's going to protect Ethereum Classic as far as security will be the merge. And at the end of the day, that's the thing that's going to increase Ethereum Classic security across the board. End of story. Now, Charles Hoskinson did work with him, like we mentioned today, to improve the security on the network. So it's better than it was. What will be perfect, of course, will be when the security moves over from Ethereum. Max Barbell says, ask Son of a Tech, do you think it'll be worth riding the Ethereum Classic wave? And I think like or in general, right, these types of things happen a lot where we get huge pumps up in price, right? And everybody moves over to mine it. They test out the network and it fails and it drops back down. More price discovery has to happen on Ethereum Classic before we understand how the mining market's going to be able to handle it, right? And that's just the nature of the beast. It still needs more time. Doge says, ask Son of a Tech, can we get more discussions on Doge and Shiba mining? I like coins that are disinflationary. First of all, Doge is mineable by an ASIC, so just go buy your ASIC and start mining it. I would highly recommend not mining Doge purely with those because you need to have essentially the extra income from Litecoin as well on those miners, okay? So that's what I would say. Now, as far as Shiba, you can't mine it. It's a token. It's not even a coin. That is the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life. However, you can use something called unminable, but keep in mind, if you're using unminable, you are not mining Shiba. You're not providing security to the network. You're providing security to whatever network basically it is best for your GPU at the time. Typically Ethereum right now. So if you're using unminable, you're not mining Shiba, you're just mining Ethereum, and then they're making transactions after you've mined it and giving that out to you. So it doesn't really, you're not mining Shiba. Now, another problem with Shiba, of course, is that it is a token, like it's not a coin. There's a huge misconception around that. So as far as its ability, right, to, as far as its ability to be useful as a coin or have more utility, it's going to not have as much utility as like a dedicated chain in and of itself in general. So it's going to have like, maybe it's purchasable, kind of like Apecoin, where like they'll put like basically a paywall up in front of you that makes you buy Shiba to purchase some sort of merchandise that's blocked behind this tokenized paywall, which is basically the most use cases for, of course, tokens other than auto liquidity with things like SafeMoon, Bonfire, and I think even Shiba to some extent does that. I'd have to go look into it in particular. I don't think they do auto liquidity. It's a different form of that. But that really starts getting you into securities issues, regulation issues, and frankly, just being a Ponzi scheme. Golden Wolf says, at Son of a Tech, good morning from Seattle, USA. Good morning, Golden Wolf. Happy Dictator says, at Son of a Tech, would you consider doing a video on how to liquidate Cero since it's always on the profitability list? I could look at it. I haven't really even looked at it much at all, to be honest. Because of all the forks and stuff. Earl Larson says, ask Son of a Tech, how much ETC do you need to create a node? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Jorge Orta, did I say it right? Or George Orta. At Son of a Tech, what applications or projects are running on Ethereum Classic that would be good for the future? I've already talked about that. We're going to be doing a whole video on everything that's currently running on it. Devs are having a good time with it. We mentioned a few already earlier. Sean Marshall says, at Son of a Tech, would you pay $600 US for a Red Devil 5700 XT? I don't know that I would. What is that per mega hash, right? So at best case, you're at 56 mega hash a second. So 600 divided by 56. That's at $10 per mega hash. I mean, that seems fair in the current market. Victor Sanchez says, at Son of a Tech, when mining, do you care about the amount of crypto and USD value? I go for the crypto amount. So it really depends on what stage you're at and what you're really looking at. For me, I have bills that are realized in US dollars, not in Satoshis. Hopefully your balance at the end of whatever, after you've paid your operating costs, is higher in Satoshis than US dollar. That being said, to look at it blindly from that own perspective is how you run your business out of business, because mining is a business. You need US dollars to function within a business, and that is the nature of the game right now. So you do have to pay attention to it. Maza Haka says, what do you think the earnings will look like after ETH 2.0 merge? I have no clue. Like I said before, of course, I am worried that we're going to have like huge reductions and it's going to be hard to mine and basically survive within the market. That being said, this light at the end of the tunnel that is Ethereum Classic price discovery right now, of it just pumping, is super awesome and definitely alleviates anxiety surrounding the topic. Daniel D says, Ask Tech, if you had $5,000 to toss into crypto game, would you just buy the coin at this point or build a rig with it? I will always buy hardware. But that's not financial advice. I prefer assets that generate revenue over just purchasing something. Secondary to that, though, you do have options to purchase things that can generate revenue, and there are ideas surrounding it. You know, you might have to do some more learning, though, like we talked about, like with those flash loans. Like that guy just made a ton of money. But there's a lot of other options that you could do. DJ Mines in the house. Make sure you guys go follow DJ Mines. Happy Dictator says, Ask Tech, favorite moment of the 2021 bull run for you? What is? What mine is? I have no idea, man. I have no idea. I'd have to go look back on everything that's happened. I think the channel, though, growing has been the most fun. Now that the channel has slowed down on growth, it's like a little depressing. I'll be happy when it kind of starts going back up, but clearly, I think like right now, GPU mining is looking better than it has all year. Easily all year, right? This is the best that it's ever looked like. This is the best it's ever looked like. DJ Mine says, at Tech, if you only could hold one coin for 20 years, are you going to hold Bitcoin or ETH? Bitcoin. Sound money, baby. Why would I want to hold a Ponzi scheme? Ryu Hayabusa. Do you drive a Hayabusa or ride a Hayabusa? I worked on a couple Busas. Like, I used to work on motorcycles. That's what I did. I didn't like them. Because the thing about a Busa is you're just going to be in first gear the whole time, trying to obey the speed limit and being super frustrated that you can't go any faster. Whereas if I just get myself like a nice little triple, maybe a little speed triple from Triumph, or maybe a little the Yamaha FZ09 or something, I can just pop wheelies all day. Still get in trouble, I guess, but whatever. But he says, ask Tech, which is energy efficient coin, Ergo or Conflux? Ergo, from what I can tell. But of course, that's going to be dependent. Once again, like I said, that's moving a whole farm over. What's the easiest algorithm? So Ethereum Classic, it's obvious because it's so close to ET hash that it's basically is ET hash, just with the 4 gig modification and a little bit of more resistance to ASICs. It's the easiest to move over to. However, the easiest coin to move over to outside of that, algorithm-wise, is Autolycos and Ergo. Like a completely different algorithm. Friday Electronics says, at Tech, what move do you plan to make on day 1, hour 1, minute 1 post-merge? Finding the coin that nobody's moving to probably, unless the price discovery is high enough on Ethereum Classic that I can just dump to Ethereum Classic and call it a day. Blunt Ed says, at Son of a Tech, I spent all my extra cash on Ethereum Classic when I seen it in 24. Not advice, but would you sell? You think it's the top for now? I don't know what your timeline is, but crypto is always the same idea, right? But if you're looking at buying the news, you know, I do think that there will be price discovery and a huge increase in price running up to the merge. And depending on how, look, miner participation by Ethereum is way undervalued at this point. You need to keep in mind that once the miners, and I'm going to show you guys right now that you can start participating in NFTs, metaverses, DeFi. You can do all that on Ethereum Classic. Once miners are already mining Ethereum Classic and they're like, oh, I'm going to, basically the same reason why NFTs and all that blew up in the first place on Ethereum. It wasn't because people knew money was coming into Ethereum from outside. No, it was all internal money. It was us miners that were like, oh, this CryptoKitties thing is cool. This NFT thing is cool. Let me play around with this. I already mining it. Why don't I play with DeFi a little bit? Why don't I add some liquidity over here and do this? Once miners are doing that on another network, participating within another network, right? And they're like, oh, I can do this and I can do that. And this is what I can do over here on Ethereum Classic. It's going to shift the perception of the rest of the public because everybody's going to be over there doing it. Air to the Ron, thanks for the $2 in Super Chat. Says appreciate you. Good job, my man. Thank you for that $2. John Lemon says, we appreciate you. Even if the subs is slow, the crypto show is amazing. It's also on Spotify, Rumble, and Odyssey. Happy Dictator says, ask Tech, any cards are you eyeing in the market? Wah! Come on, guys. I feel like you guys just want to give me, like, you guys want to make it like, sometimes I wonder if it's like intentional, because like however that was worded, it just broke my brain. Like I couldn't get past the your eyeing part. Because I think it was supposed to be are there any cards you're eyeing in the market right now? Yes. But I really honestly, like, we need profitability to go up a little bit more. I am probably going to just go back into GPUs though. I don't know. It's too hard. I can't save up for ASICs. I'm losing a ton of money on ASICs and I'm just frustrated with the whole thing. Jacob Madsen says, ask Tech, what do you think about the crypto world will look like in 10 years? Do you think the world will be heavily relying on different networks? Here's the deal. I think it goes one of two ways. Super centralized and all the governments completely control it and they tell you what you can and can't buy. And you basically have everything tied into your cell phone. They give you a social credit score and depending on that, that'll determine what events you can go to. And it'll be a crazy dystopian future where the public is just treated like trash. That's probably the most likely one as well, too. The other option, though, is that everybody pushes into decentralization. It's accepted worldwide, and the power is given back to the individual. Individuals accept that responsibility and personal responsibility along with that. Everybody gets along a little bit better because they have compassion for each other, and we move along. That would be the utopian. That will probably never, ever happen, right? Likely, there will be some sort of mix between it, just like it always is. And there will be central bank digital currencies, and there'll be some weird underground of cryptocurrency where pretty much all the individuals are forced to go into to make purchases of whatever things that they want outside of what they're allowed to purchase with the central bank digital currencies. Maybe to be able to purchase, I don't know, like whatever it may be. It doesn't really matter. At some point, it'll be like some sort of weird kind of combination of the two. And it'll be highly regulated to get any of it out into the traditional currency, but people won't really care about the traditional currency as much because they'll be wanting to do essentially transact, they'll accept Bitcoin or whatever it is, and it'll be kind of weird like that. And I think there's going to be a lot surrounding like all of that, right? I think it's going to apply to media as well, essentially things like YouTube and so on. All that kind of shifting around is going to be really interesting. But where crypto stands in 10 years will be some sort of central bank digital currencies in opposition to decentralized currencies. And that will be the biggest thing happening. Michael FB says, hi, son of a tech. Which crypto exchange has the best liquidity for Ethereum Classic in terms of amount of confirmations? Coinbase, if you're just wanting to get cashed out to US dollar. Jacob Burgess says, ask son of a tech, have you set up any Flux nodes? No, I have not. What are some challenges you run into basically getting the money to actually do it? Blunt Ed says, ask son of a tech, diamond hands, it is then. There you go. Not financial advice, though. Dan Sand says, at Tech, FYI, at the beginning of the stream, the YouTube app was not working, probably for the first 5 minutes. It was on waiting for SOT to start thumbnail. All right, yeah, I don't know. We didn't start, I don't think we started talking until I confirmed it was up, so that's good. I do got to go here soon, though, so we're going to answer these last two questions, I think. Dan Sand says, ask Tech, should I organize my rigs separate? For example, non-light hash rate rig, light hash rate rig, AMD rig, etc. Yes, that's how you always do it. The closer in similarity the GPUs on a single rig are, the less you're going to have to worry about troubleshooting. Also, like on reboots and stuff, if like cards drop and weird things happen, Hive can switch the overclocks up. So preferably if you're really within close range of all those overclocks, that'll also help. Panzer, thanks for the €5. Thanks everybody for hanging out today. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and the notification bell. My Gamer Subs is right here. I thought we had a link down below, but if we do not, I'll update that later. Maybe it got dropped off. Please share out the channel with everybody. We're going to be trying to get, obviously, more content going, and markets are looking good. I'm excited. Change the money, change the world. Keep your heads up. Adios.